Welcome, everybody. We're doing another episode of the Saturday Artist Live Interview Podcast. This is going to be episode 9 with Alex Lavrov, and I will now invite him. I think this is going to be a really fun show.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
All right. Yeah, can hear better too. Okay, good. Okay. So what were we talking about?
I think we're talking about color theory and kind of different ways of experimenting with it. But before we get too deep, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience so that way, get something going.
Sure. So my name is Alex Lavrov. I work with oil paints and mainly in Cubist, Surrealist kind of thing. I can label myself Cubist, Surrealist, a mixture. I like symbolism and expressionism, so I combine all these parts in my art basically in different ratios. And then I improvise, so I don't predetermine what's gonna happen in the end. I go with the flow, and whatever comes out, comes out.
So how did you develop your style?
Well, very long time ago when I was a teenager, I liked to doodle, right? And it's just basically, I can describe my workflow as doodling, but more complex, I guess, doodling. I doodle until something decent or, intelligent comes out. Intelligible, not intelligent. And,
so do you apply like unconscious psychology to your work? Because I've noticed a lot of symbolism in your work.
Yeah, but basically I just do it, and then and whatever comes out, I interpret it when it's done, not in the beginning, not before I do it.
Okay, so you're kind of going with a blank mind, like a meditative state almost?
Yeah, pretty much. Half meditative states, you can say. And then, I just work for many, many hours, and then in the end, I decide what to call it, and I call it, and then whatever I see in the picture, I describe it.
So, what got you into painting specifically?
Colors. It's nice to see colors, because I started mainly. I was working like yourself, I guess, with black and white pencils for main part, and then it becomes boring after a while. Color gives life to the painting, to the artwork, right? So I started to work with acrylics, like yourself. You're doing right now, I guess, right? You're doing acrylics.
Yep.
Yeah, and then gradually, because I discovered oil paints that have more depth in it. Like as you work, there are different ways of doing, blending, and I think it looks deeper or more. How can I say it? Yes, it's more refined. Yeah, I guess blending, refinement. It's easier with paints, with oil paints than acrylics.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that just trying to blend acrylics is maddening sometimes. By the time I try to add a little bit extra layer, it's already dried, and it's like, man, I need to blend that in.
Yeah, well, you can use, there's like mediums that, slow dry mediums. I never used it, but I know that it exists.
Yeah, I've heard people tell me to try them, but for me, it's like a cost issue. Like, how much do I want to spend on this when I could at least attempt it without it, at least just because my budget's a little tight at the moment for at least painting supplies. But see, that's one of the reasons why I haven't gone into oil paints, is because they're kind of expensive. How do you kind of get around the cost of oil?
Well, right now I can afford it, but generally there is budget paint, like a student grade, and that's what I was doing in the beginning. Student grade, and you don't need to buy everything. You need about 10 to 12 tubes, and you can buy small ones. So like $50 budget should be enough to get the whole set. You can even get a set itself for, I don't know, like cheap ones, $20-30 or something like that, and then you have it. You can try, and then you find whatever colors you need, and you can buy it separate tubes for whatever colors you use most. So
I'm gonna
it's not that
to try that.
Yeah, it's not much more expensive than acrylics if you go budget paints.
Mm-hmm. What made you? What gave you the idea to switch to oil? Did someone tell you about the blending techniques, or did you notice the difference in your own work?
I don't remember, but yeah, I don't remember. It was so long ago. Like I tried, I went to school when I was teenager as well, right? So we tried different paints, and then but I prefer to use with acrylic because it's easier to apply, to dry. It's cleaner, like in the surroundings, and you don't have to worry about thinners or anything. So you just water and paint and brushes, and that's it. But then at some point, it just I had to progress, I guess. For myself personally, I didn't know much about slow drying mediums, so I just went to oils and I tried it and I liked it, and I just started working with oils all the time.
Now, who are some of your influences that are artists?
Well, again, when I was younger, I really liked Salvador Dali. You know, Salvador Dali, Dali, whatever. So I guess that's the biggest influence. I was looking at I had a like colorful book, like what do you call it? Like a book with his paintings, right? And so I could just sit there for hours, look at it, listening to music. So it was pretty good. So it was the main.
What got you into surrealism?
Yeah, in the first place. But then gradually I went to Cubism, more like say Picasso. Let's say not Picasso. Picasso is great, but not one of my favorites. There's others. There's lots of other artists, so I can't really say one specific one. But Salvador Dali was really specific. Like I'd say, was the biggest influence when I was younger to sort of get me into arts, like to sort of to want to do something similar, and
So did you try to do a cubistic style, or does that come naturally out of just your own style?
Well, I don't remember, but right now it's naturally. It's the flow goes this way. Like I try to do, like sometimes I think, well, my painting's too busy. I want to do something like, even if I look at Salvador Dali's paintings, right? There is like some sort of object, and there is a sky, so there is like a nice scenery, right? There is like desert, sky, and then look at it and I think, looks pleasant, I want to do something like that. But when I start doing it, I just can't. I start doing the details and just goes berserk. So I can't do simple anymore for some reason. I don't know. Yeah.
What's your favorite part about painting?
Favorite part about working?
Or just painting in general, art?
Art. I'd say color combinations. Like I like to see, not just my own, but in general, yeah. So I like to see the colors, how they combine, and whatever feeling they give me, right? So sometimes there's beautiful combinations, complex combinations of color and I really enjoy it. Doesn't matter what the subject is. So yeah, this is the favorite.
So you like kind of looking for, do you like looking for more novel combinations, or is there certain combinations that really appeal to you?
I wouldn't say novel, but just sort of, you look at the painting sometimes, they might be old paintings, right? And then just you see the color combinations that they used. Sometimes they're very successful, in my opinion, and then sometimes, I guess, they're still successful, but not appealing to me. Like, I can't give an example right now. But, well, let's say Salvador Dali again, right? He used a lot of blue and yellow, like predominantly, from what I found, like that combination, and plus other supportive colors. So it seems to me pleasant. So when I look at the painting, it sort of gives me like that pleasant vibe to sort of calms me down, kind of thing.
I noticed that in a lot of your paintings, very primary color driven. At least it seems to be, like for the few that I've gone through. Is there any specific reason? Like, are you doing color psychology, or is it just the subject seems to be like, this person seems to be yellow, or to you? Is that how it works?
Yeah, I don't know. It's subconscious, right? So I just do. So I start. I don't know if you saw my videos. The first layer is just I go really quickly, just paint something, like just throw colors onto the canvas, and then I adjust them as I go. So to make it, to make, I guess, work to make them work together. I don't know how to explain it. It's more. know how to explain it. It's sort of, it's a subconscious process, right? It's just to win it, basically. I don't have like, I know some painters, they do some what do you call it, like studies of work before they start working on a painting, right? To see the colors combinations, how they work together. But I don't do it. I don't know. I just do it and it comes out. Sometimes I guess successful, sometimes not that successful.
Do you have any regular practice that you do, or do you just do the painting and without having to do any kind of like formula practice or?
Yeah, I just do the painting. Sometimes I just do drawing on the side just for fun. But other than that, I just do the painting. You know, all the time I have is just dedicated to the painting. So it's like I guess it's like work now. It's not a hobby anymore.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And I noticed that
It's not that.
like
Yeah.
your paintings have a lot of depth to them. How do you achieve that?
I guess it's a contrast of colors, right? You put a dark contrast in with light colors, paints, colors, yeah, and then it comes like that.
Okay.
Just it's an effect. It's not.
And so do you typically see like human faces? Because I notice a lot of your work has kind of like faces within like faces, or at least it appears to my mind like that. I can't tell if it's intentional or not, but it has kind of that, as you're saying that, as you said, your Dali is one of your biggest influences. Do you try to like do that surrealist combination, or is it that really just part of your unconscious coming through?
Yeah, it's part of my unconscious already. It just comes out, whatever it is. I just see some, you know, a paint like. So okay, let me just put it. What you call it? So when I work, I put the first layer. I just drop shapes and colors, whatever comes out of my mind subconsciously, right? And then the next layer, I sort of improve it. Like I can see like a shape in a certain blot, right? And then I can shape it into a face, or I don't know, some bird, or whatever comes out of whatever feels like it, whatever it looks like to me. Like I can compare it to, you know, if you look at the clouds sometimes, I don't know if you look at the, you know, like fluffy clouds and you can make a shape out of it in your mind, you can see a face or whatever. So that's basically, that's what I do.
Okay, so you're just kind of progressively layering on like the details that your mind fills in as you go. Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So it's in a few layers, right? So I have time to sort of to shape something. So it's not right away, right? It's a layer after layer after layer, and something comes out. So
do you dive into kind of researching the psychological side? Because your paintings seem to have a very almost Jungian feel to them, for at least for me. Is there a specific psychology theory that drives your work? Because I know you're talking about working with like the unconscious and the subconscious.
I don't know what to tell you. I won't say there's a theory, but as far as like I read a lot of books on psychology and philosophy, right? So what I see as mind works, there is conscious and subconscious, right? And so conscious mind is whatever we use on a daily basis, and subconscious is whatever we're not using, like it's something, like it's part of the mind that's responsible for everything else, like creativity, decision making, like decision making before the conscious mind knows what it's doing, right? So like I don't know, some impulse behavior or whatever. So I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm just doing my thing.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite philosopher that you really enjoy?
Favorite philosopher? Well, right now I'm interested in neuroscience. So I read books about you know, the modern neuroscientists. They talk about how the brain works, you know, all the chemicals, and how the mind works. And so I can give you a few names that my favorites right now. Like it's Steven Pinker. I like his work. Daniel Dennett, one of this. Then I like biology. What do you call him? I forgot his name. Stephen Dawkins. I think it's Stephen Dawkins. No, Dawkins. Dawkins something. It's biology,
Oh, Richard
evolutionary.
Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. Yeah, that's right. But it's not neuroscience, but it's sort of connected. Physiology of the organism.
Yeah.
But before that, I was really into philosophy, like Alan Watts. I would probably know it for sure.
Oh yeah.
I listen a lot to it, and then self-help books, a lot of it. But yeah, not anymore. I think I read enough.
I feel like I've been there.
Yeah. So pretty much, yeah.
That's interesting that you bring up the Alan Watts thing, because the way you're talking about kind of letting it flow and just kind of being that, it sounds very Taoist to me, that kind of being spontaneous and being one with what you're working with.
I think I learned a lot. I think I implemented a lot of his, I guess, teachings, you can say, sort of freed my creative flow from constraints of whatever. Something like that. Yeah, so I guess there's a lot of influence, not direct influence, but sort of the way he explains how the artist should work, stuff like that. So I implemented some of it in my work. So, and I can say improvise most of the painting.
I like the idea that all your stuff is improvised, because for me, I love to draw that way, but I would love to be able to paint that way, and it just fascinates me to see that all your work is so intricate and detailed, but all just comes out of this emergence of just letting your mind go and just, as you're saying, like pick clouds out or pick shapes out like clouds. Yeah,
basically. So you just need to experiment at the beginning, and then something will come out eventually. After a few times, you get ahead of it.
So did this arise naturally, or did someone give you the idea of just kind of letting it flow?
Well, so, what I mean, I'm letting it flow right now. Pretty much everything. Something. What I mean, how's? Sorry,
well,
I didn't understand the question.
Sorry, I probably phrased it wrong. Like, did you come up with this idea of just drawing whatever instead of trying to do it? Because I know in some schools they're kind of very set, rigid. You have to draw like the apple or whatever and practice shapes and more formulaic stuff.
Yeah.
Why did you break off? Was it just natural, or did someone bring it to you?
Well, as I said, yeah. So again, if I can not quote, but sort of mention Alan Watts, because he was mentioning that creativity, let it go, let it flow. So I tried it when I was younger, right? And I tried it and I liked it. It was good feeling to sort of express whatever energy wants to express, and I start doing it. But whatever they do in schools, painting an apple and stuff, it's really good to learn a skill, right? You need a skill. You need some sort of skill, so it's not just going to be abstract. Not that anything wrong with abstract. I'm just saying, if you want some shapes and you want them to look good, you need some skill for that, right? And so that's what you need to learn to the traditional art.
What would you say are some essential things that you think beginning artists should at least look into to practice more?
The basics. If they want a skill, they need to learn the basics. If they want creativity, they just have to let it go. But in the beginning, I would suggest the basics still, because the basics after when you learn how to create, to be creative and flow, it helps a lot.
Okay, so that way you can have like a foundation
exactly.
set of skills, and then from there you can be creative and build a house on top of that. I see what you're saying.
Sure. If you look at it that way, you can look at it that way, yeah, for sure.
So do you consider yourself a visual thinker, or do you think in pictures or more in words?
I think pictures, yeah. Pictures, and then I describe them. So I see it in my mind, I see pictures and then I describe them, the descriptive, the language comes out already, and describe those pictures. I think a lot is just, it's a problem for me.
I feel that. Do you have any practice or anything that you do for helping you visualize ideas? Do you draw things in your head to to sketch out about the idea, or do you try to project that onto the canvas?
What do you mean? Do I have a picture before I start painting, or while I painting, do I have pictures?
Well, like, say you have an idea for like a painting. Do you see it like behind your mind, like in your mind's eye, or do you project that imagination onto the canvas?
No, I don't do that. This is going to be a hindrance to improvisation, right? So when I improvise, I improvise. So it's just subconscious. I guess it's just the hand works, and then as hand works, I might see like a picture that sort of put me in a direction of the object. I don't know how to. It's hard to explain. It's sort of like a something in the mind happens like a fraction of a second, and it just.
So it's more like you're observing what your hand's doing rather than controlling what your hand's doing.
Yeah. Like I see like on canvas something comes out. Like for example, I draw a line and I see how it reacts with other objects on the painting, and then if it feels wrong, I can adjust the movement, the color. So as I adjust as I go. So I don't know, like I don't have, I don't say I'm gonna paint that piece of area blue or whatever, right? I see it and it feels like maybe I should put blue. So I put blue, and then if it doesn't work, I change it to another color, right? So it's sort of like a feedback, like reaction to what I was on canvas. The brain receives the feedback, and then I adjust it or continue to the next area.
Interesting. Sorry, I keep on asking so many questions about this, but it's fascinating to me. I want to be able to try out this mode of painting. It seems very and creative is the only word I can think of. It's like a great way to break out of the normal rigidity of trying to start, and that seems very helpful for me.
Yeah, so it's basically you interacting with the painting live, right? You're not thinking about it. You just back and forth. You see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you change it or leave it and go somewhere else, or you change it later, something like that. But it's like really fast. It's almost immediate response, right? It's not like I think about it or anything. It's just seconds, like fractions of the second.
So how long does it take you for, say, a painting that's about 16 by 20? What would the average amount of time you spend on that be?
About 30 hours.
30 hours?
30 hours spread in 2 months, something like that, right? So I paint it, and then I let it dry for a week, and then I paint it again, So while it's drying, I work on other paintings, right?
Okay, so you keep kind of multiple things going, so that way you never have to slow down.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try that at some point, because I kind of just.
Well, you have acrylics that dry fast. You don't need it, right? But the oil paints, you have to wait till it's dry.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
How long does it take for those to dry?
For oil, for me, a week. Because I work in thin layers, right? It takes a week for me to dry for my paintings.
Okay.
For a layer, yeah.
So going back to the idea of the unconscious and subconscious, do you think, since you're listening to lots of stuff about neurobiology and psychology, do you think that the consciousness is an emergent property, like coming from our biology, or do you think consciousness comes from somewhere else and then kind of controls our biology?
If I understand it right, consciousness is a product of the brain. So it's basically brain. It's what brain does, right? So it's organism. It's part of the organism. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It's developed in the organism, in the brain.
Mm.
If I understand it right, and I think I understand it right.
Have you? I can't remember his first name, but I think his last name is Sapolsky. Have you ever heard any of his work?
Mm.
He has. There's on YouTube. You might really enjoy it because since you're into this, it's called. It's a really weird word. It's like evolutionary behavioral biology, and he goes through how like our consciousness has changed over time, just as our brain changes, and how we interact with our environment through evolution. He talks about different animals, and I've always found it fascinating that we if consciousness either is or isn't in the brain, it's fascinating that we have this subjectivity, that we can have a sense of self. And so you think that might come from just the chemicals that are in our brain, or?
Well, I don't know how it's really, it seems like, you say chemicals and that's it, it's done. But it's not. It's so the process is so complex, right? And it's, if you take how long evolution took, how long it took, how much time it took, I don't know, they say billions of years, I don't know, but it's still, if we develop from animals, it's a really, really long time for the brain to develop, and there's a lot of layers of the brain. It's way too complex to comprehend. So, but still, it's not like I understand that the notion that consciousness developed as evolution goes, for sure, because the brain is much more complex right now than it was millions of years ago, billions or whatever, right? So there was a development for sure in consciousness, in the brain and consciousness and the body, everything.
So what do you think of the idea of like eventually we'll be able to kind of connect our minds with like electronic equipment like Neuralink and all that stuff? What do you see about that?
Well, I'm skeptical, but because I think maybe the brain itself, if you can feed the brain the electricity without needing food, just supply energy to the brain so it can work without the body. So yes, but I don't think you can transfer your consciousness to the electrical device, to the computer. It's not going to be your consciousness. It's not going to be consciousness of the body. It's going to be I guess a program in the computer. So it's not going to be you anymore. It's going to be something else. That's how I see it. So,
what do you think about kind of AI and how like it's kind of entering the art world now? That interesting interaction.
I'm not totally sure. I took some interest in it a year ago to see AI, how it transforms, and it's pretty cool to see the pictures, how it becomes. But what I see, it like computer doesn't care, right? It just does produce those pictures. Are you talking about this AI? About the whatever actual computer do?
Yeah, like how they the new wave of the new wave of AI quote unquote art.
Sure. Well, I guess it's like a remix of whatever is existing, right? So I don't think it's actual. I mean, in the picture it looks like art, but because computer didn't create, computer doesn't care what it does, right? It's just computer programmed to do what it does.
So you think the thing that might separate it is the intention to create?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I never thought about that before.
So there is no intention, right? Computer is a program. It doesn't care, right? When the human creates, right? It's self-expression. And even from what I see, there is like a debate goes on that computers will take over the art. I doubt it, right? When you know that the image was created by the computer, it feels that okay, whatever, right? But when something created by a human, you kind of like, I personally, right? I care.
Yeah.
I care to see a picture that was created by a human, but when I see a picture created by a computer, I say, okay, it's fun for a second, but then you see the context behind it. Whoever created it, like the computer itself, it didn't care what it did.
Yeah. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about the idea of intention behind it before, because like I've been trying to figure it out myself, and I don't consider it art myself, but I know other people have different views because people view it as a tool, maybe like, because like, well, I'm putting in the prompts and everything. It's like, well, yeah, but still, it's not what the image that you're seeing is not the image that's within someone's mind. It's just kind of just pooped out from like just an algorithm.
Yeah, I think so too. Not to offend anyone who are involved, yeah.
Exactly. I don't want to offend anyone because, like, I know that there's so many different theories of what art is in the world that it's hard to put a finger on. But it's like, for me, I don't consider it that. But also, I think it could be a useful tool if we're doing like other things. Like say if you need to like recreate someone's face from like a couple thousand years ago or something. Like I've seen they've done with like I think some of the pharaohs, they kind of like they remodeled the face or whatever according to AI or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of useful applications you can do with it. I don't see it as a threat to me as an artist. Like some artists see it as a threat to their artwork. So, I don't know. I'm not too worried about it.
Exactly. I don't think like because I messed with those AI things. I don't think there's anything. They might be able to rip off what you do, but they can't come up with what you do. And that's why I think it's fascinating because each piece that you make is completely unique.
Yeah, it's gonna take them a while to program it to make something similar. But again, if they make something similar, they can't put it on canvas with paints, right? So it's just gonna be a digital image.
Exactly.
So I would probably whoever does digital drawing and digital artwork, they're probably worried. But yeah.
Have you ever worked with digital art, like using a tablet?
Yeah, I tried.
What is your experience?
I tried. I worked on. I got a tablet, like a specific drawing tablet. So it's pretty good. It's pretty smooth. But I don't know. It's not the same feel. It's not the same feeling as you work with canvas with the real paints, right? So I tried it, and I think I lost interest right now. At the moment, at least. Maybe I'll try again later. Yeah. What about you? You work with digital?
I've tried it. Same thing. Even before I even tried painting, I tried doing a digital, and it just didn't feel right because I'm so used to drawing with like a pen or a pencil that I'm always used to that resistance and that little bit of grit that I can't get the same feeling when I'm just like sliding a fake pen on a tablet. But
yeah,
but then I see like how people can use it for awesome animation. I really want to try that, but then I have to put in all the practice for just using that skill. So, have you ever tried doing this with animation?
No, I went to animation school, but it was all mouse and keyboard. I don't like. There's I think it's called Lightwave, the program. So it's a lot of. I didn't like it. I spent about 2 years, like a year in learning and then a year in a student project, and then I gave up completely because I thought I'm going to be working in digital, not what you call it, 3D animation. But then I dropped out. It's too much hassle. There's a very little creative part in that. It's just more of engineering and programming kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about that part because, especially now, it's less. You don't have to paint every individual cell. It's more like you create the thing and then
you create the thing.
Plays it out.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe different things they apply different tools and whatever, but I'm not. Whatever I learned in that school, animation school, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it as a career.
You ever watch Studio Ghibli films?
I'm not sure. What's it about?
They're anime, so they're from Japan. It's like My Neighbor Totoro or Spirited Away. Some of them are owned by Disney now. They charge for them now. I used to get them free when I pirate them, but can't do that anymore. But they have a really interesting art style because that's at least one of my favorite things about anime is if you look at the background of it, it's all very almost kind of reminds me of
flat, like 2D?
No, it's more like an old Renaissance painting. At least for some of the Studio Ghibli films, they're more maybe they're a little bit looser. But they have a very interesting detail behind it. Like the characters will be flat, but if you just like kind of block them out and then look at the artwork that's behind each scene, it's really interesting. Like it looks like everyone is individually painted. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but
well, if you send me a link, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll send you some of the stuff. It's one of the few times I actually appreciate like animation anymore because, as you're saying, now it's more an engineering thing. Whereas his stuff, it looks like flowing art. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you might like some of the stuff. It's really good, compelling stories too.
Well, I like cartoons, like not kids cartoons, but adult cartoons. Like I watch stuff on Netflix. But
what's your favorite adult animation?
I think at this moment is BoJack Horseman.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was ridiculous. So it's more about not
like,
the cartoon itself. It's about the story, right? The story, the acting, the funny stuff.
I love the constant nihilistic sarcasm that runs through that show. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, dark moments, very entertaining. Yeah, so I like that kind of stuff.
It's interesting how we have, as humans, we can enjoy things that also like have the opposite effect. Like we can almost enjoy depressing jokes.
Yeah.
Like with BoJack Horseman. So it's like a paradox almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can appreciate that absurdity. It's so it's amazing.
And the absurdity, exactly. That's the right word. It's ridiculous.
So, what art do you look for? Like when you want to go look at art, what kind of stuff are you attracted to?
Well, what do you mean, like others, like art shows?
Like if you want to go to a museum and you wanted to look at a specific wing, which would you go to?
I don't know. Right now, kind of my interest in artworks of other people are pretty saturated, right? So I just go whatever's available and I just look at the details, look how people try to figure out how they did it. I can't say I'm getting inspiration from it, but I just get a good feeling to see that there's art in the world. It's good, not just I don't know. Like it's still there. The people still trying to creating. So humanity didn't give up on art yet. So so it's kind of it's a pleasant feeling just to see people do different things. The things I didn't think about, didn't even imagine possible, right? So just interesting. So it's good. What do you call it? Good for my sort of art education to see what are the possibilities out there.
Is there any style that you like or you enjoy, but you wouldn't want to paint?
Realism.
Realism?
Yeah, I like to see. I can appreciate the skill that people put on it, and I sometimes I think, should I do it? But then I remember how boring it is for me. Like I really get bored when trying to do some realistic stuff. But I appreciate it. I appreciate to see somebody creating this. It's fascinating.
I feel that as well. And sorry.
All right.
Time. I have to get going in a couple minutes. So it was
Sure,
great having you on, Alex. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, it was a fun conversation.
When I upload this to YouTube, I'll put links to all your places. Oh, so this would be a good time to let everyone know where to find you online and where to get your art.
Sure. Well, I'm on Instagram, obviously, and then on Instagram there is a link tree. On my Instagram, right on top of the page, there is a link tree that shows all my links everywhere else. So I guess that's easy enough.
Perfect. I'll copy and paste that into the description on the YouTube.
Sure, absolutely.
It was awesome having you with us, man. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ezekiel, right? Ezekiel? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Well, I wish you luck with your painting, with your endeavors. And if you need anything, you can ask me questions.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right.